Welcome to By Subject, a Silicon Slopes brand and marketing podcast. I'm your host, Peter Stevenson, and I'm here with my co-host, managing partner at Modern 8, Alysha Smith. And our guest today is CMO of Vasion, Jen Black-Janke. Welcome.
Thank you.
Hi.
Happy to be here.
So nice to have you here. So, well, we talked a little bit outside, but I'd love to hear a little bit more about, your background, where you grew up, what got you into marketing, where'd you go to college, all of that kind of stuff. So
All
give
that
us a little, give us the background.
I feel like this is a job interview.
It is.
Tell me about yourself.
It is. You if you do well enough, you can take over the hosting
Oh,
job.
no.
Yeah, you'll be great.
So I was actually born in Logan, Utah while my dad was going to college up there, but we quickly moved to Wisconsin when I was young, and I grew up back there where he taught at the University of Wisconsin. So
Wisconsin's amazing.
yeah, grew up there, but my grandparents both live in southern Utah, so we came out here every summer and spent the summer on the ranch and hung out. So
You hung out on the ranch all summers?
my grandparents had a fruit ranch, so we'd come out and spend a month or two in the summer just picking fruit and chasing the hogs and picking the eggs out of the chicken coop. So
That sounds idyllic.
yeah, it was a great place to grow up. But then back in the Midwest, also, super friendly, small town,
Yeah,
cows everywhere type thing. So
that's fun.
I called two homes, Wisconsin. I grew up in Utah. I've lived here since 2003.
Okay.
So long time.
And then where did you go to college?
I also, USU, Go Aggies, is really big in my family. So I went up there for my undergrad, and then I ended up doing my MBA at the University of Utah.
And what was your undergrad in?
Marketing.
Marketing.
Yeah.
You say
Kind of
that
a
so reluctantly.
No, marketing is just something I've always wanted to do. Like,
Interesting.
I didn't know why, but I had it in my head, and that's what I wanted to do. And so I can't think of anything else I'd rather do.
So you got a degree in marketing. You went and got your MBA from where?
The University of Utah.
And in like an emphasis on marketing kind of thing?
Yeah, it was back then they did a really consolidated version of an MBA. If you had a business background, you would go 3 semesters, so a year and a half, but you couldn't work. It was super intense, but you just got it done. So studied entrepreneurship and marketing as the emphasis. It was a great time. Met awesome people who also helped me get like some of my first jobs.
Yeah.
From that.
So you did that right after college at USU?
No, I took a little 2-year break.
Okay.
Not a long break. Actually served an LDS mission and then
came back.
back. Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about what that first marketing job was. What was the first foray into marketing?
So I was thinking about this last night when I saw your list of questions.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, oh, I know. But then I thought again, no, it's not that. Back when I was 12 and 13 in Wisconsin, I actually had a paper route.
You did.
I did. That's how old I am. People read the paper, and every afternoon after school, I'd go on my paper route. And I quickly learned that there were 2 sections. I had the apartment section. Those people moved in and out really quickly, so I didn't get to know them. But then I had a whole neighborhood of just elderly people.
Yeah.
And I figured out if you figure out your audience and know who they are, and you put their paper up on their front step instead of putting it in the driveway, I would make bank on tips at Christmas. And then pretty soon I was getting tips on Valentine's Day and Easter and all of that. And it was just from that one little block of, those elderly people who appreciated that extra little.
Yeah.
So it was the extra service and the extra care
Yeah.
and love that you gave to those
Yeah,
people.
because I figured out my audience. But if you ask my true first marketing job, so I graduated with my MBA in 2003.
Okay.
Only 14% of our graduating class had jobs at graduation.
Wow.
And
Whoa.
so 2 good friends I met at school, we moved to Hawaii and we're just beach bums for 6 months
Okay,
and
you
just
did
hung
it
out.
right.
Or why force yourself to try to find a job if there isn't any? Go have fun. We're young.
Yeah.
So we did that, but I was trying to okay, it's been 6 months. I should be responsible and get a job. Someone in my parents' neighborhood reached out and said, hey, I hear you're looking for a job. We are a group of creators and designers and writers, and we just got laid off from Utah Business Magazine. We're going to go start our own publishing house, one of which was a local business magazine they wanted to start up. And then we ended up doing magazines for Zions Bank, a medical coding magazine, a lot of different magazines to help support and fund that local magazine. But I had a professor tell me, if you go into marketing, your first job should be in sales because you really have to understand how you're passing off those leads and really understand their world. So I went and sold ad space
You sold ad space
at
for
those
this.
at the magazine.
What was the name of the magazine?
The local magazine was called Connect.
Connect?
Yeah.
And it was primarily like a Utah business.
It's a Utah business competitor,
Okay.
but more focused on like entrepreneurship and innovation.
Interesting.
So yeah, I ended up selling ad space, met a lot of really great local companies, and then moved on to be like managing director, where I was able to say like, okay, here's the stories we're going to tell. Here's the images and photography we need. Work with freelancers to write them and photographers. And I really got to understand that whole creative side of marketing, like telling the stories. I edit everything I look at now because you just get ingrained of how to edit those magazine pieces. And then I loved seeing the layout and how the creative director would put all those pieces together to create like this wonderful magazine that you could touch and feel and read.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Back to your first opportunity as a media buyer, essentially. What and the advice that you got, what did you learn from that, and what do you still use today from that experience?
Oh, that I hate sales and I'm horrible at sales. And I feel so much for anyone in sales, but I love to be able to support them in their job and make them the real heroes. And, how can, as marketers, we make the sales team job easier.
Yeah.
It's a real sense of empathy
that
I learned.
So funny. The thing you learned is you don't like the job.
Oh, no. Yeah. I was horrible at it. I was horrible. Yeah. But I learned so much about it. And oh, yeah. Now I can think back like, oh, if I was a salesperson, what would I wish I had from
for marketing.
Mm-hmm.
As you talked about, going from, doing ad sales up to the managing director of the magazine, I'm curious what the community of entrepreneurship and business was like in the early 2000s. What was, what kind of stories were you telling? What were the companies that you were thinking about in that time? I'm curious about what the milieu of the state was.
Yeah. Golly, this goes back like 20 years now, but I remember meeting Josh James, and he was working on Omniture at the time. Overstock was just becoming a big thing.
Yeah.
Modern 8, Randall Smith wrote a branding column for us. I think Kickstart, like some of the VC funds that were here were just starting out. Greg Warnock, I remember interviewing him, just starting out.
Yeah.
A lot of the big players you see today were, making their start back then.
I wonder, is that content available anywhere? I'd be curious to read some of those stories.
That's a good question. I'm going to have to go look it up.
It's on microfiche? Oh, that would be amazing.
Yeah. What's the Wayback Time Machine? What's the... We can search old websites.
Old websites.
Yeah, I'll have to go look and see if I can find some.
That would be amazing. I'm going to try to find Randall's old branding columns.
Okay. I think I have some of the oath copies. I kept 12 of the copies where I had articles in them, so I'll find them and
fascinating.
Send you a copy.
That would be that's amazing. Well, okay, so you got that lasted for how many years?
Oh, I was there 5 or 6 years. The company grew only to about 12 people, so super small. So I remember putting $30,000 print bills on my personal credit card just to get them printed. So you were in it. You had to be in it. So did that for 5 years. And then I'm like, okay, I went from super small. Let's go somewhere bigger and different.
Okay.
So that's when I went to InContact, which is call center software, to go switch over to the tech side of marketing.
What year were you at InContact? So what year was that? 2008?
2000. Yeah, about then.
2008, 2009.
Were you there when Modern 8 rebranded?
I think
InContact?
I started just after that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
There was stories about some of the brand archetypes being posted up around the office. I remember John Notwell told me that. Do you remember that at all?
No, because I think I came just after they went from UCN to InContact. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So tell me a little bit about that experience. What was that role that you took there? What were you working on?
Yeah, so it was a really pivotal time in my career. I was Dave Olden was the VP of marketing at the time. Yeah. There was one, maybe 2 other marketers there. So it was very much like the start of building out a team. And we helped build the team. It was my first introduction to Marketo and marketing automation. I remember being blown away by what is this new system and how technology plays into marketing. So it was a pivotal moment in my career where I'm like, okay, this is super interesting. I want to I want to keep exploring this option. And then from there, we grew the team. That's where I met a lot of people like Heather Hurst and people who just ended up being lifetime friends. And then you just kept building and growing in the team. And every few months, you were learning something new. And looking back, that was the one thing that helped change my career, because every job I went to after that, I was always the first or second marketer, and I always helped grow the team. And that's what I love. I love that building phase and seeing how all the different pieces of marketing come together. So I did that at InContact. I went to Expert Voice after that.
Oh, okay.
They already had a B2C marketing team, but they also needed a B2B. So I was the first one hired there to do B2B. So again, same thing, come in, build it out, look at our systems, processes, people, and helped grow that team out for 5 years from there.
I was just going to say, when you built the team, are you just as much, I mean, do you find passion in leadership and development and kind of growing the talent within like whoever you hire, or is it more, what would you say is your strengths around growing a team?
I would have to say in my earlier career, like at InContact and Expert Voice, it was more about learning everything I could about marketing. And at InContact, I had an amazing mentor named Tracy Thane, and he helped me really put framework and processes around marketing. And then at Expert Voice, I had another amazing mentor named Inga Johnson, and she had just come from Columbia Sportswear. She was so big into really understanding the data and how data drives marketing. So just opened up my world there on that side. So I was learning and gleaning everything I could for those folks at those part of my career. And it wasn't until I left Expert Voice and made a huge jump and went to Ragnar, the running company. And that's where I was like, okay, now.
Miserable race right there.
A great race.
Yeah.
But miserable at 2:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
But that was my first chance to jump in and really be that leader.
Like own it.
And own it. And I love that part of the job, is the mentoring. And I was so lucky to have people like Tracy and Inga in my career. I want to be that same thing for other people and pay it forward.
What are some of the things, this is related to something Alysha just asked. What are some of the things that like the mentors did for you that really helped you, that you've taken on to as thinking about mentoring people nowadays?
Yeah, it's two sides. They help you with your marketing, but they don't tell you how to do it. They kind of lead you along the way and let you fail and learn on your own.
Yeah.
They embrace mistakes.
Okay.
Because that's how you learn. I think we've all been in our careers where we accidentally sent the wrong email to the wrong list or wrong subject line. And once you do that once, you never, you never do that again, right? So just learning, like, that's okay. We all mess up. It's just, what do we learn from it?
Sure.
Yeah.
So there was that part, but the human aspect of it, I see you, I see your career. I remember at one point, Inga telling me, like, I was talking, like, I want to get promoted. What's my next step here?
Yeah.
The usual questions. And she's like, Jen, you maxed out here. Like, you can't go any further. So we're going to spend the next year prepping and training you for your next spot. That's not going to be here. Because she was honest with me. And that's what she did. She helped train and prep me. And that's when I jumped to be the VP of marketing at Ragnar after that so they care about you more than just the employee and what they can get out of you at that, 3 to 5 years.
Right.
You're at the company.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So, so then you jump to Ragnar. Again, worst night of my life. But
and you didn't even run it.
I didn't even run it. I was in the van. But tell us a little bit about where Ragnar was then, because you seem to have jumped over to there when they were starting their growth, right?
They were at actually the peak of their growth when I started.
And what year was that?
2018.
Okay.
So they had just hit, there's about 50 different races.
Yeah.
They had just gone global, so started like a UK race. Out of the 75 people in the company, like 25 to 30 of them were marketing, right? Because it was a very different feel, because it's all marketing driven and race operations.
Right.
Were the two main departments. So I was surprised when I got there to have such a big team, but then they weren't doing some of the basic things, like Google Analytics wasn't set up right. They didn't understand email marketing and how to segment your database. So in a sense, it was like going back and taking everything I learned from the previous jobs and like implementing it. I just happened to have a big team.
Was that unanticipated? Like you were surprised?
I was kind of surprised because I saw them. I ran their races.
Yeah.
I actually had siblings who worked there as race directors, and I didn't realize. It's like any company, you don't realize what's under the cover, so you get in there. But great brand.
Yeah.
Like amazing brands.
Stickers everywhere.
Stickers everywhere. And super passionate fans. I think one of the coolest things I was able to do there is we had 500 brand ambassadors throughout the world, unpaid, who would just go out and rep Ragnar for us just because they loved it so much. And so we would gather those ambassadors together once a year and just to feel that energy of, you don't get a chance to work for a brand like that where they have people working for free for you.
Just because I'm a brand geek, what can you summarize like why maybe they had such a brand cult following? I mean, is it just the race? What else is it?
I think for them, it was like the status. Like they were part of their local running community and they liked that status of being like, hey, look at me. I have a connection to this Ragnar, to this brand. I mean, we also gave them a lot of free gear, free entry into races. But overall, I think it was like just that status symbol that they got and were recognized by a brand that they loved.
That's why everybody puts their sticker on the back of their car.
I know. My husband thought for the longest time that Ragnar was a rock band before he met me. He didn't know it was a running brand because he's like, what running brand has stickers all over their cars?
They also do a really good job at photographing, like just along the race. I remember I ran it only once. And a friend had sent me a really nice picture of myself. And she's like, is this you? And I was so proud. I posted it immediately to Facebook. And so I think they do a good job at like at least showcasing and highlighting their athletes.
I think that's the beauty of it too. For those of listeners out there who don't know, Ragnar's either like a 200-mile road race or we also had trail races where you'd camp in one spot and run 3 loops. But it was, 24 hours. Straight. Someone's always running, but that was the whole point, is to show you places that you would never go, on your own, those backwoods of Kentucky or, along the Seattle, Washington coast to, the cliffs of Dover in the UK.
Yeah.
Like it gave you a reason to travel somewhere, to meet with a group of friends and do something really hard together, and that sense of triumph at the end.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So over this time, it's been about 10 years from your start to when you land at Ragnar. So tell me a little bit about the technology change. You mentioned Marketo at the, when you first got to In Contact. So where did you see marketing over those 10 years? What was the biggest changes? Was it technology? Was it, social media? What were the things that were really driving the most conversions from start to finish in that time frame?
I think it's how we've used the technology that has changed the most. So if you look back years ago with Marketo or Eloqua, Pardot, whatever they're all called now, it was still novel to be like, I'm going to assign you points or, a score based off of your digital activity, and that's going to mean you're ready to talk to sales.
Right.
We still use Marketo that way today, but it's not the primary purpose anymore. You're going to be ready to talk to sales because you're ready and you're in that buying cycle, and we're giving you the right content and letting you engage in that content and read and come into us now. Like you raise your hand and say, I'm ready to have a chat with sales. And it's not all about like just artificially, like, I think you're ready because you have 52 points,
Right.
You still use Marketo and this exact same technology, but it's actually how you use that technology. So our goal at Vasion today is to just pass off high intent leads. And those are people who flat out request a demo.
Right.
Because those are the ones that convert the fastest. And it's not because marketing says you have enough points.
Right.
But the technology is still basically the same. It's
Yeah.
just the strategy we use. And to make sure that we're giving you the right info. So when you are ready to buy, you're right there and you raise your hand. Not us raising your hand on the back end of technology. But we forget about it because we always talk about marketing as leads. And those are still important and like leading indicators of like where your pipeline is going. But it's making that shift as a marketing industry and then helping sales see that shift of why we may have less leads this year, but they're all very qualified leads and they convert at the highest rate possible.
Interesting.
Makes their jobs easier, I would think.
Yeah, but we still use Marketo. We still have some scoring. We still use it for emails. We still track everything, but the strategy behind it is different. So we're pushing content out on LinkedIn to give them the full piece of content. Let them engage. Let them read everything. Let's forward it on to your team. Let's just not always stick a lead gen form in front of it, just so we can get you a point or two.
Right.
Yeah.
Rather than we're going to pass off everybody over 50, now we can, actually get them to call us and say, hey, I want to talk.
Yeah. So that I think is the shift, is not necessarily the technology, but how we use the technology.
It's really interesting. So, okay, so you're at Ragnar. How long were you there?
Oh, I was there 3 years. I actually left 2 months before COVID hit, and then that's
Great time
when
to leave.
that's when they unfortunately had to lay off most of the company because races just weren't happening anymore. So I got.
Have they picked back up?
They have a little bit, not as full force as before, and they recently got sold to another fitness brand. So I think they're going to make a strong comeback now that COVID's over and more people are getting out. And
you going to run it again?
Oh man, I loved it, but 200 miles for 2 days.
How many times have you done it?
Oh, I ran probably like 15 different.
15?
Oh wow.
Do you have 15 stickers on your car?
I have 0 stickers on my car. For me, like the fun part was no matter who you were, CEO or front receptionist desk, you had to go out and work 2 races a year.
Oh, really?
So you were out there setting up cones and signage along the way, or checking runners in. Like you had to be really ingrained in your customer.
That's great.
Yeah.
So the best way is to go out and serve and work them.
Yeah.
Those were the hard days because you'd work 24 hours before setting up, and then you wouldn't sleep again. You wouldn't sleep from Friday till Sunday.
Right.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
It was exhausting, but so fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that camaraderie, that ability to like
cheer people on. And
it's a great experience, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So you worked for a really great brand, and where did you go next?
So next, I jumped back into the tech world.
Okay.
And went to a very small startup called Chargeback.
Okay.
There was about 50 people when I started. And it was classic. I got hired because they just got some funding.
Right.
Yeah. So
Good time.
again, had one marketing person on the team. I came in as, to help grow and build out that team. It was a software to help retailers manage credit card chargebacks. It was kind of like a anti-fraud software because on the front end in your shopping cart, we can detect if we think it's a fraudulent purchase, but oftentimes things go through, and then as consumers, we might try to charge it back to not have to pay for it.
Right.
So it was a really great software to help on that back end fraud of shopping. The goal was to sell it in 2 years. We actually sold it in just over a year.
Wow.
So I had a crazy year where we were just building and growing the team, and then got to be a part of that acquisition process. And we got acquired by a company called Sift out of Silicon Valley, who did the front end fraud. So it was a really nice pairing to have front end and back end fraud all under one software.
Good acquisition.
Yeah. But it put me out of a job.
Right.
Yeah. So.
And this was in the middle of the pandemic. So, okay.
So I also worked with an exec team and a marketing team that I really never met in person, like because I was there such a small amount of time.
All during COVID.
All during COVID. I started 2 weeks after COVID hit.
Whoa.
Oh,
yeah.
boy.
That's wild.
Yeah, it was a crazy year.
What was? Yeah, I'm curious what building a team. I'm sure you hired during that time frame. What was that like for you as a leader? How did mentoring come into play during that time? What was that like?
Luckily for us, we were all in the same boat. So everyone was figuring it out. And it wasn't like you had half the people in the office and half remote, because that's actually a harder setup. We would just do the classic stuff that everyone tried, like the marketing coffee chats or the happy hours. Or we actually did a lot of all hands where we would just play like Jeopardy or any type of game. Because again, there were only like 50, I think we only grew to like 80 people total. Okay. So you got to know everyone and see everyone on the screen. So you just quickly adapted to that environment. And so everyone was in the same boat and you figured it out together. That's also when you could start the limits on who you could hire suddenly like just changed in your mind. It didn't matter where you were.
Yeah. So
And so that's where you really could start meeting people out of state as well and expanding that diversity on your team, which was huge. Because I think before we all felt like we had to be confined within an office space.
Whoever was here
Yeah.
locally that could drive to the office that day.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that was a lot of a big shift for everyone that like luckily continues today, because now we have, employees all over the world, and you get that diversity of thought and experiences and background, even if you're headquartered here in Utah.
I love that you can do, sort of hire for the expertise more so than a person to fill a desk.
Yeah.
Which is so nice and such a great opportunity to expand that diversity in your team, as you mentioned.
But again, I feel like, is it odd to say something was easier during COVID? It was easier to be virtual when everyone was virtual.
Yeah.
It's the hybrid thing that we're having to experience today. Like, how do you mesh that in-office world with the virtual?
Right.
That's actually harder than all virtual.
Yeah.
Yeah, setting expectations versus trying to be flexible. And it's a hard
Or on a
balance.
Zoom meeting, if you're in the conference room with 5 other people, it's really hard to hear if you're the 2 people on Zoom, remote. So it's funny.
I had one of those meetings this morning, and technology problems and all that stuff. And half the meeting was over before the Zoom people got to join. And, it was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's super interesting. So you go and you help build this team and lead to an acquisition. Hopefully that had some, you got some payout on that acquisition. And so what did you decide to do next?
So luckily, I had been doing a little bit of consulting on the side for this company called Vasion that I've never heard of. They had an interim CMO, and the CEO just wanted to help, give them some guidance and coaching, and so asked me to just come down and help him look at the plan, build out the team. It was the classic, like, he was over our channel partners, but also wanted to try to take over marketing as well.
Yeah.
So the CEO wanted to give him all the support he could to try to make this successful.
Yeah.
So I started doing consulting there, and but headquarters are in St. George. So, I was like, this is fun. I get to go down, see warm St. George in January, February.
Yeah.
I thought it was a consulting gig. Loved everyone I met. Wrapped it up, was driving home, and the CEO called me. He's like, yeah, so do you want to come work here? I'm like, no. Because I knew we were undergoing this acquisition.
Yeah.
So I was like, no, I'm pretty good, but let's just keep talking.
Yeah.
So we just kept talking. He was very sly and was like, just meet our CRO. So I met our CRO, and his name is Jen Black, and we hit it off like so fast in the interview. Like, I've never hit it off with a head of sales like that before. Like, we joke and say we're BFFs. And so there was something special there, that as a marketer to meet someone like that on sales. And then I met the rest of the exec team one by one, and they're the nicest people I've ever worked with. Wow. And there was something special there. So
You said yes.
I said yes. So I literally had less than a week break between the sale of Chargeback went through my first day at Vasion.
Oh, okay.
So I had like an overlap of a week of trying to handle
both. Wow.
Yeah, so I got extremely lucky on that. And Vasion's this little company out of St. George, Utah, but we now have offices in, UK, Germany, Philippines, Lehigh, and just trying to make our mark on the world.
Tell us a little bit about Vasion. You said, people have never heard of it. So help us understand who Vasion is, what you're trying to accomplish. What are the real brand goals?
Yeah. So the company has been around for like at least 10 years under the name Printer Logic.
Yeah.
So if you're in the IT space and you have to deal with printers, well, let's be honest, anyone who has to deal with printers knows how frustrating it is to manage that. What I didn't realize before starting there is a lot of the print management solutions were on-prem. They hadn't moved to the cloud yet. So Printer Logic was the first to move to the cloud. And the tagline is and was eliminate print servers. And if you said that to your IT, persona or target audience, you could immediately see their face of like, are you serious? I can eliminate print servers? Like, that's at least 50% of their help desk calls are all around printing.
Yeah.
So they created this really great solution to simplify, remove infrastructure, simplify your life. And then when right before I started, they went along. They changed their name to Vasion and are creating this like digital transformation software. I remember interviewing with them and meeting them and being like, "What what do you mean by digital transformation? That's such a vague word. And the easiest way to explain it is it's all about simplicity. And how do you remove those manual processes and remove paper and have an integrated workflow? So a lot of teams will use, like Monday and then DocuSign and then Google Storage. And like you have to have 4 or 5 different systems to fill different gaps.
Yeah.
The Vasion solution will automate it and connect it all in one integrated platform. So you could, use your printer to scan something that will trigger an automated workflow that could trigger a e-signature that will file it away and store it and OCR it so you can tag it and easily find it again in the future. So it's instead of having, we often replace 4 or 5 different softwares with just one software because it talks and integrates to each other and connects to your Salesforce or whatever your other business software is. So it's removing infrastructure and removing manual processes and removing paper. So classic example of where I get frustrated is when you go to the doctor's office, how many forms do you fill out with paper?
Mm-hmm.
And you put your exact same name and your address on like 5 different papers.
Yeah.
We can just give you the clinic digital form. You can fill in your name once and it will pre-populate it across, the 10 different documents, trigger a workflow, send it to billing, send it to your physician, whatever you need. It will pop up a signature for you to sign it and it's all set and ready to go. I heard a case study last week where we literally eliminated an office building full of paper that they had to store. And you think in this day and age, who has paper?
Yeah.
A lot of people.
They do. Turns out.
Yeah. Still.
Yeah.
So that's where we're moving towards. And then we're connecting the printer logic piece, that platform, are still printing.
Yeah.
So that if you need to, print it in the beginning or, pull it out of storage and print it, it's all connected on one single platform.
And do you have specific industries that you target now for that product?
Yeah, it's healthcare, financial services, government. Think how many paper government has.
Yeah.
My favorite story on the Vasion side of removing paper is when COVID hit, the city of Indianapolis had a lot of rental assistance money that they needed to distribute. People were in need. They needed to pay rent, and they had all those funds to release, but their old manual paper process would have taken them months and months. Vasion was able to go in within a couple of weeks, create that whole online process, electronic form, signature. You would fill it out as an applicant saying, I need rental assistance. It would trigger an email to your landlord to sign your paperwork, which would trigger another email to approve the funds and release it. And they were able to hand out millions and millions of dollars in a matter of weeks to help people stay in their houses during COVID. So technology can be used to do some really good,
change some
things.
lives.
Mm-hmm.
And are you helping to streamline processes too, like going into a company and essentially consulting, this is how we think we can update your workflow and move from this program to this program, that sort of thing?
Yeah, because we actually use the product ourselves within our own company. So to get a PO approved, we use the Vasion workflow that will help us get the right approval and sign off. So we actually go in and say hey, here's how we use it on the marketing team or finance team, or, have you thought about this or that? Because it's a very customizable tool to adapt. But we also have pre-built playbooks. So, if you know you need this scenario, here you go. Yeah. You're set to go.
Cool.
Sounds like you're good at understanding your product.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah. And we have to use it, right? So we figure out the pain points and, the bugs and fixes. And so we kind of have that same experience our customers do. So we're constantly making it better for us and for them.
Yeah. I'm curious about, were you there during the rebrand or before, that was before your time?
Yeah, I started 6 months, 7 months after the rebrand.
Yeah, I'm curious about that process. I remember when you rebranded and I was curious about, the reason behind it and what the goal was. But it sounds like it was a product, you're going to be bigger than printers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We wanted to not be known as just print management. We wanted to create a new space. So the word Vasion is also you're creating this new world or this new land. It's not the invasion part of it, but that's the goal is how can we help companies get to this new space? And our mission is just make digital transformation attainable for everyone. Yeah. Whether it's the patient end, at that doctor's office or the back end admin staff at the doctor's office.
It really benefits everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah. All users.
Yeah.
What are the biggest hurdles you're facing right now in marketing? You're in St. George, you're running the team up here. What are some of the hurdles that you're going through in this new landscape of post-COVID marketing?
We're in a little bit different space because we've hired like 24 different people in the last year.
Whoa.
So including 3 people 2 weeks ago. So on the marketing team, our challenge is just as each person is added, you go from being generalist to specialist.
Yeah.
And I feel like every month we're reintroducing someone new and a new process and figuring things out. On our end, it's, how do we keep the plane, flying on the air and then building out a whole team at the same time.
Right. Your specialty, as I've heard.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. I told the team that we have to have a break. We need like 6 months of like working solid together. And it's been a lot of fun because things are starting to click and roll and we're starting to get it going. For us, it's all about scalability. How do we not build processes and systems that work now, but how they have to work in 2, 3, 4 years? And just getting the team to think bigger is the challenge at the moment. It's whatever, like we're talking about localization this morning. We have to start translating to German and French. And everyone's like, what's the fastest and cheapest tool? And I'm like, no. What's the best tool?
Yeah.
Another month's not going to hurt if it helps us in the long run.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
This is time for your question.
For my question, I forget. Let's see. Let's have you give one hot marketing tip, or it could be even like your best takeaway from your years of experience that you would love to share with the audience.
Yeah, I think the biggest learning I've had the last year at Vasion is figure out what other people think is success. So talk to sales, talk to your CEO, talk to your exec team. Like, what do they feel is success? And make sure you hit that out of the park. Because you can still say, like, well, in marketing, I'm going to have this goal and this goal. You can still be working on it. But unless you hit that, like, this what is success in marketing, you won't be able to hit, like, your long-term goal of how you want marketing to be. So, for example, if you want to be on, like, the revenue marketing side, but everyone still thinks that you need to be on the lead side, you kind of still have to, like, give in a little bit and say, okay, I'm going to help get those leads in so they kind of build that trust and credibility. But the whole time on the back end, we're going to be building out for, that revenue, optimizing for revenue too as well. So I think I jumped the gun on moving too fast at Vasion and not taking that step back. The company thinks marketing's here.
Yeah,
I want it to be here, but if I'm not hitting what they think is at first, then they won't see all the other good stuff that you're doing. So making sure, you get that like agreed upon metric of success for your first, 6, 9, 12 months.
Yeah.
At any job. Doesn't matter
certainly
what job or what role you play, because that's what kind of, you have to build that credibility.
Yeah.
And there is.
I've been fired from places when I didn't do that. So I appreciate it. Yeah.
But I think as marketers, we're stubborn and we're like, no, this is how it should be. And this is how I want to do it.
Yeah.
You
hired me for a reason.
you hired me for exactly.
Yeah.
But you can still do that.
Yeah.
Just, do the other part too.
Well, we come to our final and my favorite question. Tell us some restaurants that we should go to here around the valley.
Ooh, can I give one in St. George?
Yeah.
Okay. If you're in St. George, go to this bakery called Farmstead. You walk in and they just have amazing displays of beautiful and delicious pastries and sandwiches. And a group of chefs, I believe, came from Vegas to start it in St. George. So go to
Where
Farmstead.
is it in St. George?
Downtown.
Okay.
St. George, kind of like by the city hall in the main square area. Okay. So try that.
I love that little city hall square area.
It's so quaint and cute.
Yeah, I love it.
Is that where the Thai restaurant is in that area?
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of over there.
Yeah.
Let's see. So I live up on 9th and 9th in Salt Lake, and they have a lot of cute little shops and restaurants, but like Pago's a great little date night.
Yeah.
Love that.
We go to Monarca a lot in downtown.
Oh, yeah?
If you like Libera tacos.
Yeah.
That's the one on State, right? Okay. I haven't been yet.
Yeah, that's delicious. What is it? Edison House? Or Edison Street has it's Edison Street, but it's called Franklin.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, that's a cute little, it's an old building that used to be a theater on the the sketchy part of Salt Lake 100 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Edison Street's the best.
Yeah.
street right
It's
now.
a cute little street with lots of restaurants on there now.
Yeah,
So
there's
check
really
that
fun.
out. Yeah.
I like
Taco.
Franklin Ave a lot. It's the new concept by the same folks that do White Horse and Whiskey
Oh, is
Street
it the
and
same? Oh,
same ownership
Yeah.
group, and yeah, I really am excited about
Yeah.
what Edison Street's going to
Is
be
it-
over the next couple of years.
yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Cool.
thank
I'm
you so
hungry.
much. Yeah,
Oh, me too.
let's go eat. Thanks so much for being here, and we'll see you around Silicon Slopes.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks, Jen.
Bye-bye. By Subjects is a production of Modern 8 Agency in Silicon Slopes. Executive producers are Alysha Smith and Peter Stevenson. Editor and producer is Dave Meekum. Video production by Connor Mitchell. Development production by Eric Dahl. Production management by Shelby Sandlin. Original music composed by Josh Johnson. Website designed by Modern 8. Please make sure to follow and share the show with your friends and your enemies. Thanks for joining us.